When Naughty Dog first announced The Last of Us a few years ago, tongues started wagging about what was expected to be a top-notch title. But all the hype, for a change, simply does not live up to the final product. The Uncharted developers have managed to outdo themselves with this dark and thematically heavy title, creating, in essence, a game that transcends many accepted ideas. The Last of Us is one of those titles that elevates games to the level of art form. At the heart of the game are Joel and Ellie, a middle-aged man and teenage girl who must travel across the US. But the world is very different after a fungal plague turned most of the population into zombie-like infected and left the rest of them to become paranoid, fearful and often predatory. During their journey, Joel and Ellie run into infected and human enemies aplenty. In this regard, The Last of Us keeps to ideas that we all love about survival horror. Limited ammo, scarce supplies and relentless enemies are the order of the day. But The Last of Us goes beyond ideas held in place by that or any other genre, resulting in a game that borrows many ideas from numerous genres, improves on some, and transcends them all. Quite simply, The Last of Us is a visual feast. The characters are detailed and believable, and possess traits and nuances that make it difficult to remember that they are video game characters. During both cutscenes and in-game, the characters are visually presented as being very human. Facial expressions, lip-syncing, even little unconscious movements are all top-notch. This illusion is further enhanced by an extremely high level of voice acting. The vocal work for all the characters, whether the main protagonists, supporting roles or bit-part enemies, is next to perfect. Awesome characters would be nothing without a world to complement them. Once again, The Last of Us delivers. The dystopian future, full of overgrown cities and run-down buildings, is beautifully portrayed, giving Joel and Ellie, and by extension the player, a playground that meshes very well with the game's fantastic characters and plot. Special mention needs to be made of the music as well, which goes very far to create the emotional charge that runs through this remarkable game. To complement this collection of believable, intriguing characters and settings, Naughty Dog opted for a game dynamic that feels like a hybrid between survival horror and cover-based shooter, with more than a few stealth elements thrown in. But the game manages to surpass these ideas by adding in elements that take it from an action title to a more realistic experience. Healing and crafting take time, for example, and aiming a gun at a moving target is more difficult than it is in most games, just as it would be in real life. The result is a dynamic that not only feels very real, but also helps deepen the player's sense of immersion in the game. The player will spend most of their time playing as Joel, which includes improving weapons and increasing his skills. Amid the action, the player will also need to spend a lot of time scavenging for ammo and supplies, once again reinforcing the mood prevalent in The Last of Us. In all honesty, there are one or two very minor bugs that show up, but these are easily forgiven when taking the whole experience into account. The game is simply so good that they don't matter. All of these elements are tied together by a plot that, while simple, isn't blatant. Excellent direction means that the player will be able to read between the lines, picking up hints and clues from facial expressions, unconscious actions, and more. The emotional charge that this game delivers is mammoth. There are scenes that will get the heart racing, or even get the most hardened gamers a little misty-eyed. The character development is great, and the growth of Joel and Ellie's relationship is expertly handled by the developers. Although the plot does result in the game being rather linear, it is a powerful experience that most will want to go through a second or even a third time, and then, on top of all of that, there is a decent multiplayer offering too. The Last of Us proves that games can be powerful works of entertainment and art. It is a shining example of what gaming could be, and players that take the time to experience every detail will be thrilled by the overall experience. This is not one to rush through because the plot is so carefully worked and the characters so wonderfully portrayed that missing anything The Last of Us has to offer would be a sin. Quite simply, this is a game that everyone should play and should relish every moment of.